We have always been told that Alzheimer's is an irreversible condition, that once it begins, there's nothing we can do but to slow its decline and palliate its symptoms. But what if that's not true? Alzheimer's is very common. If you live past 75, your chances of getting it 30 to 40%, higher than many cancers. Currently, nearly 7 million Americans live with it, and the projections are that we're going to double this in the next couple of decades. At the same time, the cost of Alzheimer's is astronomical. In 2024, it was $360 billion. And the trajectory is it will cross $1 trillion by 2050. And yet, nearly half of all the cases are preventable. Which means that the Alzheimer's is no longer a story of decline. It is also a story of possibility. A new paradigm is emerging in which prevention, personalization, and brain resiliency is upfront. But before we go into the science, let's go back in time. By 15 years, when I first met Jack, my patient zero. He was 80 years old and admitted to our hospital for pneumonia. By that time, he had Alzheimer's for nearly 7 years, and his memory was very poor. He often didn't recognize his family, but in one lucid moment, he asked me to play chess. We sat down. He still remembered how the pieces moved, but it wasn't a fair game. When it was time for him to go home, the family chose hospice because 15 years ago, like everybody else, they believed that he has few months to live. And they also asked me to become his primary care doctor, the honor that I will cherish my whole life. Instead of continuing his medications, I chose to look closer into what I can do better. He was tired most of the day. He was sleepy in the morning. He didn't interact with the environment very well. And I noticed that his blood pressure was low often. So I stopped one of his blood pressure medications. He was also on a tranquilizer, an anxiety pill, and I chose to stop one of those. His blood work showed markers of inflammation, a number of nutritional deficiencies. We fixed those and put him on anti-inflammatory diet and also added a number of brain supportive nutrients, choline, omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium, B vitamins, and some others. And over the following months, Jack got a little bit better. He was interacting better. He had more energy. He was sleeping better. And for the following 9 years, you heard me right, not 9 months, but 9 years, we played chess regularly. It wasn't competitive, but it was deeply meaningful to me because move by move, pun intended, Jack changed how I see Alzheimer's, not as an irreversible decline, but as a dynamic condition responsive to environment, biology, and choices we make. I'm Dr. Mikhail Kogan, and for the last 20 years, I've been practicing medicine at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And what I have seen again and again is that the brain does really well when we begin to support it, which leads us to an uncomfortable reality. At present time, the care of Alzheimer's disease, the things we do to the patients, is just as much of a threat to the aging brain as the disease itself. Nearly 90% of Americans over 65 take at least one medication continuously, and over 40% take 5 or more. We call that a polypharmacy. And in patients with cognitive decline, polypharmacy burden is even higher. Sleeping aids, tranquilizers, pain medications, anxiety medications, even some allergy pills and acid suppressants, all known to worsen cognition and impair neuroplasticity, brain's natural capacity to rewire itself and stay adaptive throughout the life. We treat fragile brains with powerful and often harmful tools, not only because that's the status quo, that's what we've been doing for decades, but also because we don't believe we can do better. But this belief is beginning to change. In 2024, Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention and Treatment published its updated recommendation. This is one of the most influential organizations in the world, providing best available evidence on how to manage and prevent Alzheimer's disease. And in this report, they identified 14 major risk factors. I'm going to call them drivers, because they drive the disease process. And what's critical is that these 14 risk factors, these drivers, can occur in the same patient. Of course, not all 14, but many. And think of the current system. We simply don't have the infrastructure on how to do this. So this requires a different model in which inflammation, toxicity from air pollution, from tobacco, from alcohol, insulin resistance, which can lead to diabetes, sleep problems, psychological issues with depression or social isolation, hearing, vision loss, have to be treated in one package. Not one drug treats one problem. And so this new model has to be personalized and very comprehensive. And this is the model that we've been delivering at our clinic for the last decade, treating over 100 patients. And what we have seen is that often there is a spectrum. Yes, some patients progress, but not all. Many stabilize, just like Jack did. Some improve, and some return lost cognitive function. So how do we do this? We begin with lifestyle interventions. Nutrition, anti-inflammatory diet with brain-supportive nutrients, and increasingly supporting gut microbiome, which emerging as one of the newest key players in cognitive health. Sleep, to optimize brain nighttime detoxification. Movement, to increase blood flow to the brain and further support neuroplasticity. And lastly, optimizing stress reduction and engaging patients cognitively. Things like learning new language, new activity, new movement. My favorite ones are chess, you heard that, Tai Chi, and cross-country skiing. But you can choose your own. And so all of these methods, they don't have any harm. They support neuroplasticity. And the most exciting thing in the neuroradiology is that we can now measure these changes accurately. 2 years ago, one of our patients, Carol, federal worker, in her 60s, had a dramatic improvement in hippocampus. Hippocampus is the brain's volume. It's a brain's part, like a memory hub that converts our experiences into lasting memories. And this test you're seeing is MRI with a special software called NeuroQuant. Carol couldn't work, but after 2 years on the program, not only did she improve the volume of hippocampus, but she reversed most of her cognitive dysfunction and was able to go back to work. So how do we achieve such a remarkable recovery? Well, in addition to optimizing lifestyle, we go deeper. We look into what drivers can we find and treat. In Carol's case, she had 3. Sleep apnea that was impairing nighttime brain's repair, thyroid dysfunction, which was slowing down her metabolism, and exposure to mold, which was fueling chronic inflammation. And because we were able to find them and address them quickly, she was able to change the trajectory of her disease. But this program is very costly and very complex. Our team has doctors, coach, nutritionist, social worker, and we have to spend hours each week with each patient. This is not what current system supports. And the dropout rate in our program is nearly 50% because of all this logistics, not the lack of efficacy. So this program at the present is not accessible to most people. But I believe we're on the verge of a major change. All these barriers can be reduced or eliminated with artificial intelligence. Not by replacing clinicians, but by extending what we can do. AI can already coordinate the data across sleep, nutrition, activity, and biomarkers into a comprehensive package, deliver a personalized plan that can continuously adapt as the patients improve, and help to coordinate behavioral changes with real-time nudges, reminders, and coaching between the visits. So in essence, we're not replacing the care with AI. We're coordinating it quietly in the background. And this is no longer theoretical. This is already happening. So I'm so excited to be engaged in the formation of Boston Cognitive, a structured, physician-supervised, AI-assisted program that delivers cognitive health optimization at the fraction of today's cost in much more organized and focused way. But the programs like Boston Cognitive will take time before they're available to everybody at risk for cognitive decline. So what can we do today? Well, 3 things. Treat sleep, movement, nutrition, and stress reduction as medicine, because biologically they are. But second, know your risks: genetics, metabolism, environment. And third, don't wait. If you have any risks, act early. And we now have tools to assess cognition early. It's a simple digital cognitive assessment tools that can be delivered in 10 minutes or less in the comfort of your home, accurately measuring early cognitive changes before symptoms become significant. And the same tool can be used continuously to assess efficacy of the treatments we do. And this changes everything. Because Alzheimer's disease is no longer a one-way street defined only by decline. It can also be the story of resilience, but only if we support the brain better. We have the tools. We have the evidence. What we lack is a collective imagination to believe that Alzheimer's can be prevented, arrested, and maybe even reversed. It's time to imagine again. Thank you very much.